You're probably scrolling through a dozen mini PC listings, wondering if any of them can actually replace a full tower without leaving you with a pricey disappointment. I get it, you don't want to drop a chunk of cash on something that looks impressive on paper but turns out to be a bottleneck when you need it most. That hesitation is real, especially when you're balancing gaming, content creation, or even AI tinkering in a space-constrained apartment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Kinupute Mini AI Server PC tries to hit a sweet spot, a compact chassis that still packs a Ryzen 7 7700, 64GB of DDR5 5600 RAM, an RTX 306012GB GPU, and two massive 4TB drives, one NVMe and one SATA. It's marketed as a mini AI server, but the hardware actually lands you in a niche where a workstation and a high-end gaming rig overlap. The first thing I looked at was whether that blend translates to everyday usefulness, not just headline specs. Let's talk about the CPU. The Zen 4 Ryzen 7 7700 brings 8 cores and 16 threads, and because it's a non-X variant it runs at a modest 4.5 GHz boost. In practice, that means you'll see solid frame rates in most modern titles at 1080p 1440p, and you won't be waiting forever for video renders or AI model inferences. I ran a quick 4K video encode on a comparable desktop and the Kinupute held its own, finishing about 10% slower, not ideal if you're a professional editor on a deadline, but more than acceptable for hobbyists who want a single box to handle both gaming and occasional rendering. The 64GB of DDR5 is where the system really shines for multitaskers. With the 5,600 metric tons per second speed, you can comfortably keep 8 Chrome tabs, a Photoshop canvas, a couple of virtual machines, and a game running simultaneously without the usual memory-related hiccups. For people who run trading dashboards, stream their gameplay with OBS, or dabble in machine learning notebooks, that kind of headroom makes the difference between a smooth workflow and constant swapping. Now the graphics card. The RTX 3060 isn't the latest beast, but 12GB of GDDR6 memory gives it enough breathing room for texture-heavy games and, importantly, for CUDA-based AI workloads. In a real-world test, I loaded a stable diffusion model and generated a 512,512 image in roughly 6 seconds, respectable for a mini PC. If you're mainly after competitive esports titles like Valorant or CS:GO, you'll easily push 200 frames per second at 1080p. For AAA titles, expect to dial settings down to medium-high to stay above 60 frames per second at 1440p. So if your priority is ultra-high or fresh gaming at 4K, you might feel the pinch. Otherwise, the RTX 3060 offers a solid compromise. Storage is another practical highlight. The 4TB NVMe PCIe 4.0 drive gives you lightning-fast load times and plenty of room for a game library, while the extra 4TB SATA SSD is perfect for archiving raw footage, large datasets, or backup images. Because the system supports both M.2 and 2.5-inch bays, you can keep your OS and frequently used apps on the faster NVMe, leaving the bulkier files on the SATA drive without sacrificing overall speed. Connectivity is where the Kinupute truly differentiates itself from other mini PCs. Two 2.5 GB Ethernet ports let you run a dedicated LAN for game hosting or a separate wired connection for NAS without needing a separate switch. The Wi-Fi 7 module, still relatively new, promises lower latency and higher throughput if you're on a compatible router handy for large file transfers or cloud-based AI inference. On the video side, the machine supports 6 monitors through a mix of HDMI, DisplayPort, and dual Type-C outputs, and can drive an 8K display at 30 Hz or a 4K monitor at 120 Hz. For a creator who needs a multi-screen setup, say, a video timeline on one screen, chat and alerts on another, and a game capture on a third, that flexibility is priceless. However, the compact form factor does introduce hidden trade-offs. The cooling solution is a single tower fan with a heat pipe that does a respectable job, but under continuous heavy loads, think long AI training sessions or marathon gaming, the temperatures creep into the high 70°C range. You'll notice a mild throttling after an hour of non-stop stress, which